Welcome to the Creative Condition podcast with me, Ben Talon, illustrator and creativity coach, founder of the Creative Condition, artist and writer. I bring 20 years of creative industry experience and a lifelong love of creativity, a fundamental pillar of human happiness, to you through ongoing personal exploration and the shared experiences of others. You'll get a nourishing mix of creative industry professionals and people far and wide using creativity in ways that can take our learning to the next level so we can maximise our unique blend. The show's been supported from day one by Illustration X, a tremendous illustration agency representing a shining global roster of illustrators and animators over at illustrationx.com. The music for the show is by Dirty Freud, who you can listen to now on all good streaming services. And for everything else, for my coaching, resources and inspiration, head to thecreativecondition.com. Welcome to the show. This is The Creative Condition. I am your host, Ben Talon, and this is the 15th instalment of The Creative Conditions Creativity Diary, where I drop my more unrefined musings, thoughts, reflections, and insights for you guys to hopefully get something from and trigger some conversation, which is just increasingly prevalent in my life. I seem to be Mr. Creativity these days, in the sense that I'm not saying I'm any more creative than the next person, to be honest, but I do love it, and I love exploring the ideas in and surrounding it. So I hope that's what you're here to do today, to join me in that thought process. Here's the latest batch. Big thank you to the founding sponsor of the show, as ever, Illustration X, that I mentioned there at the top of the show. They've been here since day one, 10 years ago in 2015. You can go and have a look at their wonderful global range of illustration and animation portfolios now at illustrationx.com, and these guys do a lot of important work in our industry with the likes of the Association of Illustrators, the Society of Artists Agents, and many more, particularly around defending our intellectual property, which we know in this age of AI is becoming a real battleground. So get behind them, go and have a look at what they're up to. It's important work. How have you been, guys? I hope you're well. I hope you're good. I hope you've been diarising and chatting those thoughts, because I find in this crazy moment in history that we're in, it's very heavy out there. I've had my moments. I've alluded to that through these diary posts. I'm very vulnerable. I'm very open. I share them because it starts these chats, which are very helpful to air them. I think if you keep it inside your brain, these imaginations that we tend to have in this world will just inflate and spin them out of control. So I hope you're doing okay. If you're not, feel free to drop me an email, ben@bentalon.com. I'll talk to anyone about these things. But that's it. Let's get into it. If you want any one-to-one coaching stuff, get in touch through thecreativecondition.com/coach and all my other resources there. There's something for everyone's budgets. For you freelancers, if you're on the fence and you like the sound of the pit stop, which is essentially, for British people, an MOT, that's a regular check-in. Pit stop kind of describes it. But we go through all of your creativity's makeup, and I help to bring my 15 years of knowledge through over 300 interviews with leaders in creativity, not just the creative industry, but doctors and firefighters and Olympic gold medal winning coaches and all that stuff. That was informed my understanding of both the human condition and the creative condition, and that is the intersection where I help you. It sits between therapy, business coaching, and just helping you to see the wood for your trees in your own life. So if that's of interest, get in touch. I break it down into installments to make it affordable for freelancers. I will work out a package that works for you. I want to work with more people, helping them make sense of their creativity and choose their optimum path moving forward with tangible, actionable steps. So you can get to all that at thecreativecondition.com/coach. Drop me a note through the form. We'll have a chat over Zoom, no obligation. We'll see if it's right. If it's not, that's fine. We'll keep in touch. If it is, then we can work something out and work together. So there you have it. Anyway, without further ado, 26th of June, 2025, gobshite. Where I'm from, James Brown would have been called a gobshite. Sometimes the slinging of this word would have been more justified than others. Loudmouth might be more universal. I like gobshite. Context, among other factors, determines whether a gobshite is an asset or a pain in the arse. In the mid-1990s publishing world, James thrived, giving many artists, writers, photographers and stars their break because his brash qualities came with bravery and a willingness to resist conforming to industry standards. He surrounded himself with people who were great at what they did and balanced his extreme characteristics. I'm a social bloke, but I also need my solitude because I'm sensitive. People are nuanced. James had his demons, and while the mid-1990s proved to be the right time for his kamikaze way of doing things, it also lacked the awareness we have today around mental health. He documents this brilliantly in his autobiography, Animal House. Where I'm from, that tended to lead to one of two extremes. Mostly trouble, or achievements in a field where differences were hugely beneficial. Education is still massively failing gobshites. For every James Brown I've seen, countless others pinball through chaotic lives until the lights stop flashing. We, still, as a society, refuse to acknowledge the inarguable need for broader learning where drama, dance, art, sport, and other vehicles for different kinds of energy and intelligences can significantly reduce the amount of pinball lives being lived. Every gobshite who has illuminated my life has a beautiful tender side that they'll show you if you give them the chance, and the vehicle to show that in a way that our culture tends to barricade. These contradictions embody the human condition. I love helping my coaching client recognise this duality because it opens up so many fulfilling pathways they never even considered. All of those naughty kids at school were brimming with creativity, but their identities were built on mischief and a system that reflected only failure back at them because of its Victorian rigidity. That was the mid-1990s. We live in a world where technology is outpacing science fiction. Surely we can do it better. Little footnote here, guys. I forgot to acknowledge the fact that James Brown is in fact not the soul singer, but the founding editor of Loaded magazine in the 1990s. I should add that on, and I will edit the piece accordingly on the website now. 30th of June 2025. Outraged by outrage. I had a moment reflecting in the car on a long drive. I haven't yet mastered the new car's operating system and somehow kept flicking the CD player onto the radio. On one burst of broadcasting, I heard the words, appalled by comments at Glastonbury Festival. Kneecap and Bob Vylan are at the thick end of it. Kneecap showing solidarity with the colonised, in this case, Palestinian people, and Vylan too. I observed my feelings here, and while acknowledging that Vylan's comments calling for death to Israeli Defence Forces were strong, and perhaps self-defeating, I find it hard to see it in any other way than making artists easy scapegoats. Can anyone credibly point the finger at young musicians speaking out about genocide when far darker participation in these horrors is at play on the same shores? We can all remember a certain Marshall Mathers back in 2000, can't we? 30th of June 2025, the lay-by people. Those people I see on long drives north and back south, the slouched people, awaiting help, forced out of plans. I see something in them. You might remember I recently wrote about getting lost, how there is no better way to be ultra-present. Well, it's a variation of that. Two lads around 13 and 15 years old respectively, and a dad who paces a few metres away. The lads both wear tracksuits and their faces are blank, gazing at the zooming cars still on course for their destinations. They remind me of author Chuck Palahniuk's comments about there being no better place to write than hospital emergency waiting rooms if you want to capture unfiltered body language and presence. None of the four groups of unfortunates I see want the situation they're in, and I have no way of knowing whether it will turn out to be good or bad for them. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't believe that there to be an opportunity in the predicament. 30th June 2025. It's what you do, who you are. We were 4 or 5 pints deep when I told my electrician friend that business had been better this year than the previous 2. You know what the difference is? Or one of them, I rambled. What? I've been spending less time sending speculative emails on social media, and I've been arranging calls instead. Meeting people, going to things, taking care of my relationships and starting new ones. It's easy to forget how important that is, you know? Seeing the whites of someone's eyes instead of a fucking avatar. He's nodding as I trail off into questioning whether it might just be that I'm now in my 40s. He shrugs and says, well, yeah, that's who you are. The simplicity of his words and the certainty in how he says them hit me hard. As long as I've known you, that's just what you do. Just talk to everyone, bringing people together, making it make sense. And it's funny because I fall into that trap of thinking the best insights will come from those in my industry. But this friend has known me since 2005. When he moved to Preston without knowing a single person and bumped into a lecturer of mine in a pub, The two of them played pool and drank beer, and by the end of the night they had decided to start a five-a-side football team. Trouble was, they needed 3 more, and ideally a couple of substitutes. That's where me and the other football fans on the illustration degree came in. Then I invited him to everything, and he was always shocked by the range in the many little worlds I like to inhabit. I had my creative industry lot, but I worked in factories, the council, bookshops, and regularly had friends from Yorkshire, London and overseas come out. I'd always loved it that way. 20 years later, and despite much of my counsel being from other artists and designers, his valuable perspective makes it abundantly clear. He's right. This isn't a strategy. It's permitting myself to step away from the noise and do it the only way I know how, the way it works for me. Cheers, guys, for listening, and I will also back that up by saying it's the only way it works for you. Is the way it works for you. You have to go into what you are, whether you're introvert, extrovert, strong character, social character. You have to sculpt your networking, your connecting, your ideas. You have to make them bounce off the foundation of who you truly are, not look at what others are doing and think you have to do it that way. So remember that. Something I very much work on with my coaching clients. If you want some of that, you can read all about it at thecreativecondition.com/coach. Hit me up if you'd like to work together through a one-off pit stop or a longer coaching program. I've been sculpting some very bespoke, specific, tailored programs for my clients recently, and I love that. Cheers for listening, guys. Thank you to the founding sponsor of the show, illustrationx.com. Check out their global range of illustration and animation portfolios now. Do consider supporting the Ukrainian Institute over at ui.org.ua. Share the work of the wonderful and brave artists of the Ukrainian creative community. It will help them. They need that support. Or you could commission them if you're in a position to do so. Cheers for listening, guys. Have a great week. We'll see you back next week for the next guest episode. Have a good one.